This is Live Talk with Dwayne Moore. We're talking worship on a global scale.
Hi, everyone. This is Dwayne Moore, and you are watching Live Talk. Once again, we're bringing you a phenomenal interview. I know because I've already done the interview with Rich Kirkpatrick. Rich is in California, USA. He's an author. He has been a worship leader in churches over the years. Now he coaches and he consults with leaders and with churches. And what he's going to share with us today is so insightful, especially in the area of just growing as a leader, yes, but growing as a person, to be more than maybe we've been before. I think we get locked in sometimes to our comfortable and maybe even focused area that becomes a rut for us, when what we're going to learn today from Rich is that we need to think beyond that. We need to use that imagination that God gave us, that creative process that some of us don't even think we have, but in fact we do, because we're made in the image of God. And that's what Rich is going to be talking about. He's going to tell us about his new book that's coming out called Mindblown. And so you're going to want to hear this interview. I promise you, you're going to love it. Before he comes and we bring him in for the interview, I want to ask you to pray for us, because by the time you're watching this, we are just a few days away from leaving as a team, the Next Level Worship team, to go to Africa. And we'll be there, at least I will be there, for several weeks in 4 different countries during the month of August. We have different team members in different parts of the world, frankly, that are be coming in from the United States, from other parts of Africa, that'll be coming in, converging on Zambia, Kenya, South Africa, and Zimbabwe. And we'll be working with our local leaders there. And so we'll be training, primarily this is a training mission, where we anticipate training upwards of 1,000 worship leaders, pastors, church leaders, intense, encouraging kind of training that is practical and theological and helpful to help them see their churches grow and ultimately to make disciples. That's what we're called to do as believers in Jesus, is to take up our cross and follow him and encourage others to do that as well, and to make disciples. So we are making disciples. This is our part to play in that. It's just a small part of all that God is doing in this world, but we're grateful to get to do this and to pour into some wonderful, and very sharp people that are leading the churches in Africa. But not only that, we're bringing in vacation Bible school teams. Now, you may not use that word from where you live. That word may not be common to you, or that idea. Think of backyard Bible clubs. Think of the word holiday Bible club, if you prefer that, not vacation. In some parts of the world, the word holiday would communicate better for you. It's the idea is that when children are out of school, what can they do? They can go to a vacation or holiday Bible school during that time. And so for a few days, like 4 days at a time, we have teams coming in that's going to work with children in villages. Some are Muslim children, but go to where they are, to their villages, and teach them about the gospel of Jesus Christ and about the worship of Jesus Christ. Powerful, wonderful ministry this is going to be. And it's all through Next Level Worship International. So if you're not familiar with our ministry, check us out at nextlevelworship.com and learn more about what we do. We would covet and value your prayers. We need you to be a prayer partner for us. We'll put on the screen the address you can go directly to sign up to become a prayer partner. Or you can also donate and support us. We're a few $1,000s away from paying for the most expensive trip of our entire year. This trip's going to cost us well over $60,000. That's a lot of money to us. I think that's a lot of money to most people. But our God is faithful. And we can't put a dollar sign, a dollar number, a dollar figure on souls that are saved and people that are encouraged and discipled. And so if you could be a part of that to help us, if it's only a few dollars, do what you feel led. God will honor that. It's not about your amount of money. It's about your faithfulness to give as you feel led. Now, this is after you give to your church. First thing is you and I need to be supporting our local churches. But once you've given to your local church and you fulfill that, what I believe to be an obligation biblically, to give, to support the place God's placed us, then you may also feel led to give to us. And we'll put an address on the screen to show you how you can do that. So that's our prayer request today. And my encouragement to you is whatever's going on in your life, let us know, and we would love to pray with you about it. But I promise you, God knows, and he loves you just as you are. We'll be back in a few moments, and we're going to bring you this wonderful, wonderful interview with Rich Kirkpatrick. We'll be right back.
Live Talk with Dwayne Moore. Biblical, worship, perspective.
Hey everybody, we are back with Live Talk, and very excited today to have a friend of mine. Rich, we haven't spoken, man, and I don't know. I was just trying to remember how long ago since we've gotten to talk, but it's probably back in Kansas City, the last time we actually saw each other face to face at a conference, maybe 10 or 15 years ago. I don't know. But
it could be that long.
I don't know, but anyway,
pre-pandemic.
It definitely pre-pandemic, but it was a long time ago. And I keep up with you on Facebook. But y'all, this is Rich Kirkpatrick, and he is an author. He's a worship leader. He's an artist, worship artist, and he's an avid coffee drinker. We were just talking about that a moment ago, right before we started the recording. And I'd like to claim him as a friend of mine. So thank you, Rich, for joining us today.
Well, an honor to be claimed as a friend of Dwayne. So very cool. Obviously, I've been keeping up with you, and I've just finished my coffee. So maybe I should get another one at the break. I think I might.
People that watch this show all the time, they know that I always have this. But as I pointed out to you already before we started recording, this isn't a real coffee drinker's drink. Okay. But I'm not a real coffee. If people say you must love coffee, you go to coffee shops a lot. I actually don't like coffee. I don't like the flavor. I love the smell. Love the smell. Want to wake up to it, actually. Don't want to drink it. It's weird. I think it's strange, but it's how I am. So anyway.
It just means that you're probably a creative person like I am.
Okay.
And I had a friend who's a psychologist who told me that, hey, Rich, you self-medicate. I said, what do you mean? So I'm holding coffee all the time, right? He says, well, you're probably ADHD. And I said, really? Well, then I had two of my kids. They ended up being officially diagnosed for it. I said, well, where does it come from, right?
Where does it come from? Like father, like son.
But it just means, us creative people, we like our brains, we like just open, and then get distracted. At least I do, not you, but me.
I didn't realize that my coffee illustration was my coffee conversation was going to open up to our conversation today. Well, what a great segue. Because you've actually written a book on creativity. Wow, that's great. So we're going to talk about that book today. We're going to talk about your new book, right? We're going to talk about the book that I also love, The 6 Hats of a Worship Leader. I want to hear, just some pull from glean some of this wisdom from you and some of that. But also, man, we want to hear about the creative process. And so we're going to have a really good conversation with you. And so thank you for giving us some time. Now, I want to start with your family and where in the world you are in this world. Because I'm not even sure. I'm going to guess where I think you are, but I'm not sure because I've been out of touch for a while. So let's back up to tell us about your family. Tell us about what you're doing other than being an author and those kind of things.
Well, my wife and I have been married for, let me get it right, 33 years.
Okay.
This summer. We live in Concord, California, which is the East Bay. We just moved about 6 weeks ago, so maybe that's why you're getting whiplash here. Because
I thought you were in California, but I also heard that you'd moved, so I didn't know where you went. Okay.
Yeah, so we live there. My wife, she's a Christian school principal, and which is cool. So she runs 3 different schools, and I have 2 adult children. They're great kids, son and a daughter, and I've been, like you said, I've been a worship leader. I have a group called The Beautiful Liturgy with my daughter.
That's what I was going to ask you about that.
Done some conferences and things like that together. We try to write stuff that's like old and try to reimagine it. Some of the hymns, everything from Methodist hymns to Baptist hymns, just whatever we find.
Your recordings, they're very, very good. I will say that.
So, and then, what else am I doing? Yeah, so I've been writing, and like the Six Hats of the Worship Leader was my first book. And then this new thing came out just kind of as an extension of just being curious about, how I like to figure things out, kind of nerdy, it's like curiosity.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where those things come up, it's when I get stumped.
So tell us about your history. You wrote a book about worship leading. So tell us what you've done in the past. Not everything. I mean, you've done a lot, but just, what's your history in the area of worship leading in churches?
Well, I started 22 years old with a church plant in Southern California. A little church called Saddleback was planting a bunch of churches down there. Okay. And people heard of that maybe, but I didn't know what all this was. I didn't know what a worship leader was. I didn't know what a church plant was, but they said, you're a musician. Can you pray about this? I ended up going and discovering just, wow, this is great. The pastor took me to every worship conference and gave me books. And I just, wow, I knew the musician part, but what I discovered was there's so much more to this. It's not just music. And so then I, got a Bible degree because I knew that, hey, music's not really the issue here. This is really about God, so I want to learn more about theology and the church. And so over the years, I've been, music minister I've had, choirs and worship teams, and then I've been on like executive teams at the churches. So I've been kind of like in that kind of role. And then recently, what I've been doing now, Dwayne, is I've been like a coach. So I've consulted some churches and coach, and mainly what the kinds of issues that I deal with are systems and processes, because that's kind of just how I'm wired. I'm, kind of nerdy that way. And so we talk through about how strategies and things like that. It's kind of like scoring music out, I discovered. It's just the same kind of thing. So, and it's been exciting. It's been a journey. Like the book, The Six Hats of the Worship Leader, came from trying to figure out how one church would turn from one style of worship with one worship team to 5 different things on the same weekend, and realizing, well,
and it's true.
How do you do all this? I don't know how to do it. So I called every friend, every favor I could to figure it out. And after figuring it out, I had lots of questions. And so I said, well, I think it was on a napkin. No, it was in an email to a pastor who asked me about what's the worship leader do. Well, I said, the worship leader wears 6 hats, not just one thing. It's not just being on there. And so what I did is I wrote this book that chops up the role of the worship leader into 6. And the 6th role, which to me is the most important, is the role of shepherd. It's the role of someone who's about nurturing the heart of their team and the church, because they're a partner with the pastor in that. But how do you get time to do that if you're not organized in the other ways? And so what I did is said, okay, now I don't want you just to be organized to be great. The whole goal of this is so that you can, 1, reproduce yourself so you survive, but 2, so that you can have that time to be taking care of your team and taking care of your church people, because that's really, if you don't have space for that, then you're missing out. So that was how that came about, from an email. I like hats. I used to wear hats a lot. So anyway, and that's how that started. And so it's been an incredible journey being a worship leader. As you know, it's not always the easy thing, and some pastors get you, some don't. There's style issues sometimes that people get hung up on, and then when I was always the youngest person, Dwayne, whenever I was, it seemed like it. Now I'm not. You can see the white hair. I've earned all this, but learning things the hard way. The reason I wrote The 6 Hats of the Worship Leader, was to try to just say, hey, if I could take an espresso shot of some things that help you sit down with your pastor and explain what you do, or so he could explain what you do if you're new to this, then that would just be a little help that I could offer.
So good. That's so rich. I just interviewed Josh Miller. Josh is the worship development pastor at Saddleback, and you mentioned Saddleback, and I just literally interviewed him yesterday. But anyway, just Josh kind of had said the same thing, similar to what you said. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. I was 20 something, and they needed somebody to lead, and here I am. And I think a lot of people get into it like that. They can play guitar, they got a good voice. Next thing they know, they're asked to lead, and they don't really know what that even means. But they mean well, but they don't know what to do. So Josh talked about his journey and growth. And it sounds like to me you've had a great journey as well. You've grown a lot, but you've taken it a step further, and you've actually done something I think would benefit a lot of us, that you put it in writing so we can learn from it. I love that.
Yeah, and and obviously it's stolen from everybody along the way. I didn't get to cite everyone.
We can all say that, yeah.
But I did have a worship pastor. He's the only guy I know who probably in his 70s, he was a worship pastor until his 70s, who was my mentor, Brad Hansen. And so if he ever hears this, he's just a wonderful person who, I was 19 and he put me on the stage and he says, Richard, sing this verse. I didn't know I was being mentored to be a worship leader, but over time I realized that that's really an important thing, is how do we raise up people? And so you can't do that just off the top of your head. You have to really be intentional and take time. A lot of stuff you're doing is like training. How do you get people to understand that sometimes it takes a process, sometimes it takes time. It doesn't just happen, instant. You don't just pour water and worship leaders show up. You have to somehow nurture that, both the skill, but also, their heart and their knowledge. The third thing, the knowledge of just what the church is about.
Well, Rich, I love what you said I love everything you're saying. I mean, I'm tracking with you, and I'm so appreciate that. I love how you said one of the hats is being a shepherd, but what you said is so very true. By the time we get to the sixth hat, there's no more room in our head, and there's no more, there's no more capacity in our lives, it seems like, to do that. So I don't know if there's a ranking involved here, and I don't think there is, because you got to do a good job on Sunday morning if you want to keep your job. So that kind of earns you the privilege to do that other ministry off the platform. We know that. But I would ask you, where do you see the shepherding? I mean, if they got to let something drop of one of the hats to, go away, do you think shepherding is okay? Is it okay to let that go away? Or do you feel like the mentoring, shepherding part is vital?
Well, you can wear a hat, share a hat, or give a hat away.
Okay.
So the whole idea of this is that shepherding can never be non-existent. And maybe it's not even you. Maybe a pastor or someone on your team could spend some time in that with that hat. Okay. So, I leaned on my pastor in different seasons to really help me with that, because I was so new at the leadership of people thing.
That's really good.
And so the goal is that worship leader is not just one person, it's a community. So that's kind of the idea. And so, but shepherding, how we nurture people behind the scenes and in front of people, because that's part of it too, is something we can't, I feel that's number one. Now I have it number 6, because in order to keep it number 1, we have to make sure, like you said, we deliver a lot of these things. And so I think it's the people thing. And again, that's even why I wrote it down, because I wanted folks to see that's, that the people factor really is, what we do. So people are both the product of our ministry, but it's how we do ministry. So we measure ministry in the effect it has on actual people, both eternally, but also just in the moment. But we also need these same people to be our partners, and this is how God uses us, uses me and you. So for us to take that and not put that in first, or if it's 6, meaning that it has to stay within that bundle, then I think we lose.
You can have listed, honestly, those of us who've led worship, led music, worked in church staffs, we know there's actually more than 6 sometimes.
Oh yeah.
But I've actually looked at those 6, and I loved what I read, and I went, yeah, I agree with Rich, but it made the cut. That was impressive to me. Shepherding right up there in your top 6. I thought that was pretty powerful.
Well, yeah, thanks. Yeah, and of course, a lot of this just come from seeing what happens when you don't do it. Yeah. You can't backfill things that take time. It's like doctor says, Rich, your blood pressure is not great, which it's okay right now, but there's times it wasn't. I couldn't just instantly, and you take medication, you have side effects and all that. So, okay, I got to get up and walk sometimes. I got to do all these things to keep myself healthy. Right. And your team, we have to look at it like that. It's like, what do we feed our bodies? It's the same thing. What do we feed our worship team? And I know you offer a lot of help on that area, and I think that's really a missing piece for a lot of folks. That all the other stuff's great, the video walls. I was at a church recently. We had this incredible video wall, and I love all that. I'm not against any of that. I think people, you can say it has to be whatever. No, I don't think so. But I think what behind it has to be is is the people. They have to be taken care of, and we have to reach people, not just we have to inspire more than we impress.
I'm soaking in, man. That's good stuff. Inspire more than impress. That's good. Yeah, thank you. Well, so if you're maybe got a young worship leader listening, maybe we have a pastor that wants to pour into other people, doesn't really know how. What's a good first step? Either you're needing to be poured into, you're in the learning stage of, and you're really feeling like you need that training. What do you do? What's a good first or second step? What would you recommend? If you're the person that's seeing that your team needs some encouragement and some training, what would but you're a busy pastor guy, what would something you could say to them on their end? So both sides of it, how can we take a step toward doing this more, this shepherding, pastoring, mentoring thing you're talking about?
Well, 3 steps I put in the Success books was you got to find a mentor, or you got to find a mentor, seek a mentor, find a friend, and the last part is you got to join a community. You have to have these 3 things together. It's not just one person. You can't just rely on your spouse.
And
So if Dwayne, I call Dwayne up, or I call somebody up to say, I need a mentor. I need someone who I'm willing to be guided by. Sometimes it's even, that could be through books, it could be through materials that we, read. And then I need to, find friends. I need to be able to find people who can be honest with me, who are with me along the way. And I need to join a community. I need to be a person who's not isolated, that I'm just a worship leader.
okay.
And I need to be a person who's just like everyone else, a part of the family.
Oh, that's rich. Yeah. And so what I hear you saying, and you said it real clear, I'm just making sure I'll repeat it so I don't miss it, and I don't want anyone to miss it. You be proactive. You pray. I mean, because only the Lord can really connect those people in your life. But then you go ask and seek and knocking, not only vertically, but horizontally, right? And you say, okay, where is someone that I can reach out to and find some help? And I think that's very powerful and very important. I think sometimes we go, well, I haven't got anybody that won't help me. What? Well, there is somebody. Let them know that you're wanting some help. That's one of the things we notice in our NLW community, which we work with people in different parts of the world. Some seem really eager, and they're almost they're a blessing, but they'll send you messages and call you. It's funny because I work with people in Africa and other places. They don't realize there are time zones in the world. Okay, so I get a phone call at 3:00 in the morning via Facebook, but it's because they want to grow, and I do get that, and I love that they're being proactive. So I think what you said is vitally important. We need to not just be okay with not being trained. We need to go after it.
And it's like working out. That's what discipleship is. It's working muscles that, spiritual muscles that help us, listen better, pray better, lead better. All the things that we are meant to do. We don't just come out of the box doing them. A baby has to learn to walk, and as we get more advanced in how we lead others, it becomes more critical that we're, stepping the right way. So, and that's why, the book on creativity came out, because I was continually curious about like how does this all work, and I also wanted to figure out how does a worshiper, how their mind's going to be open to this whole stuff, because it's one thing for us to talk as worship leaders, we get it, like we're excited about, we listen to the new songs, or we have opinions about guitar tones. The church members are just out there thinking, what is this?
For sure. Well, I'll tell you what I want to do. I want to take a break for a moment, and we're going to show you guys a video of what we're about to do. We're about to go and do intensive schools both in Zambia, and then the beginning of August, and then the end of August we'll be in Kenya doing an intensive school. So we're going to show you a video about what we do, and we're also we're bringing in Vacation Bible School teams that simultaneously, while we are doing a school with worship leaders and pastors, they'll be out in villages sharing the gospel and teaching about worship. So we're going to show you guys a video about that, and then we're going to be back with more from Rich, giving us some rich, sorry, play on words there, information. I'm sure you've never heard that done before, but anyway, no, but just Rich, really good stuff. When we come back, we want to hear about Mindblown. That's your new book. that you've written, and we want to hear about it, what it means in the creative process, and how I'm not a creative person. That's what some people think. We want you to set that record straight for us, okay? And so we'll be right back with more live talk in just a few moments.
We had a vocational Bible school with children in Sambweni Blessed Camp. In the first day we had 130, and the next day we had 135. And among the 135, only 35 were Christians, and the rest were Muslims. We thank God for that. We get to minister to Muslim children, and that we give God glory.
I have been to Africa one other time with Next Level Worship, and when I left that time I said there will be no way that I don't go back after that. I know I left a little piece of my heart the last time I left, and it was just an amazing experience.
Out of all 3 times that I have been to Kenya, this by far has been the greatest. And I don't just say that to say it, I say it because I mean it.
We have went to a Mission Action Center. It's a children's center close here. We performed VBSs, which are Vacation Bible Schools. We did crafts and Bible study, recreation, tried to kind of minister to the leadership as well. We brought them some things, just let them know that, you know, they're not alone, that even across the world, God's love is there supporting them, and kind of equipping them with some new ideas of what to do with their children and how to minister to kids.
We were kind of adjusting and kind of figuring out exactly, how VBS in America translates to VBS in Dihani Beach and the surrounding areas. But by that second day, we really had a good grasp. We had 137 kids come. It's been fantastic.
Having 130 kids come for the vocational Bible school in a Muslim-dominated community, and say 100 of them came from families that are purely Muslim. When they are going home, those are 100 kids going to 100 homes, and you can do the math of how many people are going to be impacted, because when they go back, they're going to be talking about what they learned, they're going to be singing the songs that they learned, they're going to be reciting the verses that we learned, and so you can see the impact.
Here in Next Level Worship, we are seeing the impact that God's entire family is making. We are seeing people from all across the Kenyan nation coming and learning and being equipped to serve Jesus. We are seeing people from all over the world coming to Dihani Beach to be equipped and to be served and to be trained to share the gospel to the next level. People from Pakistan, people from all across Kenya, and bringing the nations back to Him. So it has been such a beautiful picture for me. It has been humbling for me, and I'm just beyond thankful that I've had the opportunity to come and serve alongside of the people here.
Anyone who takes that leap of faith and does it, there is no way that they will regret making the decision to come. And just getting the experience to worship with people, brothers and sisters from all over the world, it's just an overwhelming experience, and there is nothing in the world like it. To feel the picture of God's people just lifting up all nations together, it's just an amazing thing.
Don't say no, do it. Be all in, be fully committed. God will provide. I know you see sometimes a price tag on a mission trip, but I promise you 2 things. 1, God will provide and make the funds happen if you are willing to surrender to Him. But there is no price tag on how God is going to serve you through these local people.
You're listening to Live Talk with Dwayne Moore. International conversations on worship.
Hey everybody, we are back with more live talk. Just enjoying our conversation here with Rich. You're out in California, and you're out there right now, right? Is it hot in California like it's hot here in Alabama?
Well, we had 97 yesterday. I think it's a 91 today, so it's a little warm for us.
Cooler. Okay. Well, this is Fahrenheit. I read this morning in Morning Brew. I get that every morning email, and I read that we're one of the only countries in the world that uses Fahrenheit. So for the rest of you guys, I don't know what the temperature is, but it's hot. Okay. That's anything around 100 degrees is hot. I also read this morning that England hit their hottest temperature ever recorded in history yesterday. 104 degrees Fahrenheit, which once again, I don't know what that is in Celsius. But anyway, so it is hot here, but it sounds like it's maybe cooled down a little bit for you. But we're in our summertime here in the United States. For some of you watching, it's in the fall. Interesting and hard to imagine, but for some of you watching, it's in the winter. And it's actually wearing coats and jackets. Where we're about to go, Rich, we're about to go to Africa, and it's their winter time. Or, well, it'll be coming into their springtime. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
How that works. But we're here with Rich Kirkpatrick, and Rich is an author, among many things. He's written a book called The 6 Hats of a Worship Leader. And but he's also got a new book that is coming out. Rich, is not out yet, but it's about to be, right?
Yes. And the book is called Mindblown, Unlock Your Creative Genius by Bridging Science and Magic. And so the idea isn't, there's a science to magic and a magic to science, meaning things that we can't describe. There are processes behind them. Sometimes we don't understand what that is. So the whole idea of the book is really to explain this, that everyone is wired for creativity. A lot of people don't believe that. They think only certain folks are wired for creativity. Only you're born with it. But I explore the question is, what if every human being is designed to be a creator? And I think that's the case. So, of course, as a Christian, that's a no-brainer. We know that Tolkien used to say, he called us sub-creators. Others have used the word little creators, which I kind of like that. I'm a little creator. Because, the creator created stuff out of nothing. Well, what we do is we take what the creator's given us, and we have, just like Adam named the animals, we have the call to make things, make the world a better place, make medicines that are health for people, make music that helps people pray better, write sermons or lesson plans, or run a dentist office a certain way. There's so many ways to be creative. It's not just about arts. It's not just about learning how to draw. And the thing that's cool about this is that our whole world of research is discovering that creativity is absolutely hardwired in people. Now, it's not a surprise for, us, but what is creativity is a question too, and so I kind of go through some of that in the book as well.
Yeah. Okay. So you're obviously very passionate about this creative process and being creative and helping us understand it. But there are people watching that have probably seen themselves as non-creative for years, and so there may not be sold yet on your premise here that it's really important to recognize it in ourselves. Why write a book on creativity? I mean, really, that's a pretty niche market, isn't it? I mean, help us understand that.
Well, it's surprising to me because I just became curious of it. That there's academic studies, neuroscience studies, philosophical studies. There's Christian universities that have now they're studying it from the artistic and theology point, how it intersects. So it's something I was like, really? I was like, yeah, what's a big deal? I know I'm kind of a creative person because that's just how I'm wired. But also, I notice there's things I do that people don't think are creative, but I think was. So what is this true? So I asked that question.
Okay.
And what I found out was that, this creative process, the reason I wanted to write this book is to let people know that if we're wired to create, if we are created in the image of a creator, then if we learn how to create better, we're actually learning how to be more like the true selves that God made us to be.
I like that. Yeah. Well, he certainly is a creative God. I'm watching a documentary right now on, we look and see the stars, and if you're like me, you're kind of busy, you don't look at them near enough, but they're right up there. on any non-cloudy night. They're right there, but we walk underneath them and we don't even pay attention to them. At least I do. I'm guilty of that. But they're there, and they're reminding us. This the new pictures coming out. Oh my word! From this new telescope, unbelievable what we're seeing out there now, out in outer space. But I'm watching a documentary right now on Netflix. I'm sure Netflix is just glad somebody's watching. I'm sorry. Anyway, that's another story. But I'm watching this documentary about the human body. I mean, you can look out there and see God's creativity, but my word, the creativity just within our own brain and our own eyes and just the things it's talking about blows my little brain. And that's the name of your book, Mindblown. So why did you come up with the name Mindblown? Is it because of what I'm saying here?
It's exactly from what you're saying. It blows my mind that this is how we're made, and also the idea of what the brain scientists are finding out. Because what they've done is they actually, put contacts on the brain and images while people were creating, like a jazz musician doing improv, and they discovered the parts of the brain that work. And so it used to be, this is what blows my mind, we used to think right brain or left brain. Well, here's something that I learned, is that imagination is actually one of the most logical things that we do. It's not just the left brain or right brain thing. There's executive functions, I guess, that in the front of the brain, and then there's other places where images and things that we create. So imagination is like this. Dr. Carson, one of the researchers, says, it's like you walk up to a cliff and you start to feel something. It's like, ooh, that feeling you get, like the height. That's imagination. And imagination, it's your executive function that says, that's possible danger. You're not dangerous yet. You're not running off the cliff, but you're imagining what could happen. And so the ramifications for understanding this process, that it's embedded in the chemicals of our body. That's why, it interests me so much. So it blows my mind, the fact that imagination isn't something that's just a gooey thing, that when we apply it correctly, we can actually discover answers to problems or ideas and things. Everything from prayer changes.
Well, I personally couldn't agree more with you. I'm just trying to put myself in the mindset of someone watching that or listening that's never seen themselves as an imaginative person. In fact, I've actually met people that feel like that I live in the cloud somewhere, which I'm sure even my own family thinks that sometimes. It's always imagine, always thinking, but you need to come back down to earth and just here's what's really happening. Here's the reality. I've had that, not so much from our family, but I know that's what people think sometimes. Dude, don't live out there, in the imagination world. This is the reality. But what I hear you saying is imagination may get us toward reality. I'm not sure. I'm trying to understand how this works. Okay.
It is. That's a great way of putting it, because really there's two ways of thinking, basically. There's divergent thinking and convergent thinking. It used to be called normal thinking, but let's say 20% or so of the population, which I am part of, and maybe you are too because you're creative, have what we call divergent thinking, where your mind works as you start with one idea and it can turn to 10 things.
Yes.
And so you go around. Well, most of the population, 80% or so, they take all those 10 things and they can't handle that. So their whole goal is to bring all those 10 things down to one. So it's like convergent thinking is like if you're doing a fill-in-the-blank math question that has one answer. So blah, blah, blah plus blah, blah, blah. If you do this equals one answer. Well, to a divergent mind is thinking, okay, how do we screw the light bulb in? Whatever, the metaphor, right? It could be many different ways. Right hand, left hand. I can ask my friend to do it. All this. So the divergent thinker is thinking of lots of options.
Yeah.
And ideas.
I love
and the
that.
convergent thinker is doing none. And so the most of the population doesn't get this.
Yeah.
But because what they do does work. And here's what I discovered. We need both of them. And so bridging science and magic is the metaphor for the magic is the ideas just going everywhere, the imagination, because it's from the same word, imagination. And then the science of the logical, okay, there is A plus B equals C. we need both sides of this, like a side of a coin. And the thing is, we can't do both at the same time, so we don't understand each other. So the creative process gets like just kind of messed up. It's either all habits or all things that are just this way, or it's all just gooey stuff that only those artsy people can do. Well, the truth is that we learn from each other that humanity is wired to be creative, and it includes coming up with lots of ideas, idea generation, and then the process of sorting those ideas and repeating that bridge back and forth. The people who can do that very quickly and all the time are the super geniuses, the Michelangelos of the world. And so that's really the creative process. It's that. And so I basically broke it down into 3 steps, but it really is just this back and forth.
Okay. So you're really making me want to read your book. So your book, yeah, I mean, this is a good thing, right? So I think I'm safely assuming that if I read your book, that's not yet out, but will be soon, that I'm going to be helped in how to bridge that and connect those 2 worlds better, right?
Yeah, because there's some things. Yeah, first of all, it's becoming self-aware that there's a process now. One of the ideas, the motivations I had for writing this book, back to that first question, was that I want to be in an environment, because I know what it's like to be a creative person and people to tell you, you're just wasting your time with this whiteboard of a bunch of stuff you have on your wall or whatever you're doing to try to figure things out. In fact, I have one story in there. I had a pastor who was my boss, wonderfully brilliant man, who just said, "You think backward, but you come to the right conclusion." So we agreed that you, Rich, come to the right conclusion, but you think backward. So I was stunned by that. So we live in a society that says everything has to happen uniformly, but really we're going to come at it from, some of us, 20% are going to come starting with imagination, the bridge to sorting the ideas. The rest of the population is going to come starting with how they sort ideas to learn how to do that. And in the book, I explain a little bit, because I don't understand it as a scientist, but I try to learn as best I can to explain there's brain networks involved that we can exercise. So anything human and spiritual and that's good for us isn't just a pill. It takes effort. And our brains can actually be trained. And this is why a lot of our, the church fathers and stuff talked about habits and things, because a lot of it's training our whole chemistry in our brain, not just through our body, to actually respond in certain ways. Because, divergent imagination, we have to imagine, hear this, Dwayne, we have to imagine Jesus to worship. We have to imagine that his presence, because we don't see, the song gives us vibes and confirmation, and the words give us that. But we have to have faith, which in a way is an activity of our brain learning to focus, to be open. So, but also, it's not just always being open. We also have to learn to sort. And this is true in a spiritual habit in life as well as in any area of our life. We have to learn to sort those things too. And sometimes it takes a community to walk with us through. I had this experience. Now what do I do with it? So that's what creativity is, though. So I argue that this creative process is wired in us so intently that if we could understand it a little bit, it'll help us be better people in all the things that we do, especially the most important ones, the things that you are teaching people about, which is to worship.
Yeah. Well, this is so rich. It's so good. And I keep using that word. And I don't mean to, because that's your name, but it's also very rich material, very rich teaching. It's very needed. I believe there's there at least in the circles I run in, a famine of teaching, frankly, an emphasis on creative thinking. And so I was excited to come in here and talk about this with you today. And I appreciate you writing something about it. When it comes out, how can people find this book that's coming out?
Well, it will be available on Amazon and everywhere, I guess, that distributes starting July 29. And I have a site that you could find it, rkblog.com/mindblown. And that's right now. That just goes to a list if you want to get on it. But soon as the book comes live, that will take you to look at the book. And
so you can do some sort of pre-order or pre-registration kind of, hey,
yeah,
here, let me know about it kind of thing.
And I'll be having some post excerpts from the book, so people sometimes want to say, well, before I spend whatever, I don't even know what's going to cost, honestly, but whatever it is, I want to read some of it. So
Honestly, if people have listened to what you've said today, that should be all you need. I mean, come on, guys, just ante up, get the book, and seriously, I'm no kidding. It's an investment for you because here's a man that's like me, in that he's not a scientist, but he's going to put it into layman's language to help us understand this better. We need it. I can't tell you. I mean, over the years, I'm thinking back of times I've had. You mentioned the whiteboard, and you can see I got one behind me, and I'm always scribbling stuff up there. And I've led teams of people in churches. I've got a team of people now that's spread out in different states and countries, and I know they cringe when I bring an idea. Oh, here we go. Because I'm always bringing ideas. I'm the divergent. I just get crazy with ideas. But the difference is. And what I heard you say with your pastors, he said you think backwards, but you always get there. That's the point. How do you get there? Because if we don't get there, if we just have all these ideas and never get anywhere, we'll lose the respect. Not maybe respect, maybe too strong a word, but the attention and ultimately the fellowship of some people that we need to be on board with us, right, Rich? And so what I think your book's going to help us do is not only have the divergent ideas, but maybe bring it to something that can get results.
Well, I mentioned something that I found out about brainstorming, and this is, I'm sure you've experienced this. I've been to brainstorming meetings. You're 34 minutes in it. It's supposed to get all the ideas, no judgment, right? That's the rules. But then by 34 minutes, it's all being figured out. And then, and the two loudest people with the most opinions talk most and all this. So one of the researchers from Harvard Business School says, it's kind of like putting the gas and the brake on at the same time. So the gas is idea generation, more ideas. The brake is let's sort the ideas out. And you need both, by the way. You need the convergent guy who's going to say, we need to test this idea out to prove this. Will this really work? It's not saying don't do that. What it's saying is separate those two. And I go into some little bit of a detail, and people can look at the footnotes. I have, a couple hundred at least citations in it, so people can find out if they don't trust my explanation, which I know is I'm fallible. But you can't really do these two things at the same time. So you have to bridge them. And so lateral thinking is really the bridge. There's divergent, convergent, then lateral is getting across the divide. And so you basically have to decide, will I focus right now on this side, whatever convergent side, or will I defocus this time and open up? And it's just like,
I like that. Yeah. I get
so
that.
you're in prayer. So you're in prayer.
Yeah.
Is this a time that I focus in prayer?
Yeah.
Or that I'm open to hear in prayer?
Yeah.
And some of us are good at just being open, and we, hour goes by, it's great, but we maybe didn't focus and to kind of focus. Some people are great at focusing and saying, what are you doing over here?
Yeah.
But the thing is, letting ourselves learn both.
Okay.
And having people on the team and say, you're the guy on my team that's the convergent thinker, and you think you're being negative to us, but just hold those thoughts for a minute. Let us get through the ideas, and then now we need you to help us engineer which ones actually will work.
Oh yeah, that's good. Yeah, I think as a CEO level, like you're kind of over that group, and it may not be a big corporation, it may just be a small group of people but you're leading them. I think there's got to be what you just said, Rich. I hope everybody's listening to that. There's got to be times like yesterday. Was it last night? Last night. I've been focusing for the last few days on this upcoming trip, and man, we just had a meeting yesterday. Convergence, talking about convergence. Just imagine like the magnifying glass zoning, the sunlight right in on something to try to get every flight booked. They already are, but just making sure we didn't miss one, making sure our hotel rooms are booked, making sure everybody, all these details. And I'm like, but it's important. I'm focusing. But then last night I said, I need a break from that. I didn't say the word. Now I've learned a new word. I need some divergent thinking in my life. And so I started thinking about some things beyond this trip and it actually re-energized me. So as a primarily creative person that loves divergence, as you say, when I get too much in convergence, it wears me out. So I need to go back and forth. But my team right now doesn't need me divergently thinking. They need me focused on what's happening in a week, And so I'm really appreciating this, and I'm seeing myself in a mirror a little bit here with this.
It's kind of some of it feels counterintuitive. Let's when we exercise ouch, which I need to do more. But,
Yeah.
I had a personal trainer at one point in time. I'm not an athlete. I got picked last on every team for a good reason because, their team would lose. But, I needed to get healthy. And anyway, the long story short is this guy, if you know Enneagram, he's Enneagram 8. He just tells you like it is. It hurt for a while. But over time, I was able to do more. What hurt first didn't hurt later. So a lot of this is just really trying to train our brain, which is part of our body and all of our being, to be able to go back and forth. So you would probably are going to need to know that I'm right now in this convergent thought, but I know I'm going to have this time coming up because I'm going to need it. But this is my, the sprint to whatever period. And, some people think that constant hustle is how we generate ideas. But the scientists have found out that it takes periods of rest to form creative ideas. So what I've known, some of the most creative people I've known, this one guy would work like 90 hours a week in his studio engineer. And then he'd take like 2 months off and just be gone. And, so when he was focused, it was just like, people, how do you do this? Well, he did it because he was able to find a rhythm where he could rest. And it's a lot like what we see in the Bible, Sabbath, where there's the time to focus on God and ourselves and to see reality and our loved ones and not be so, busy. But that's work. So I don't know about you, you have the coffee you like, you have a cool Kenya thing behind you, which I like that coffee sign. It's really cool. For me, I like to go to a coffee shop or someplace to environment if I need to get out of the mode that I'm in. I think we need permission to do that sometimes. Yeah. And what I'm hoping is that this gives all of us ammo to say, this is what I need, so I know how to ask for it now. So I know how to go to my boss and say, hey, I'm going to need every week just, how you say if you work for a pastor, right? How long do you take to do your sermon? And that's 30 minutes of the service. Well, I'm going to do 30 minutes of service with a team of people. And I need this little bit of time to just listen and pray and create and do the whiteboard and mood boards and do that, or listen to something, music, or go out and see inspiring, or go to Kenya on a trip and enjoy the beautiful people that you're going to meet. The break of rhythms is important. So how we generate ideas is not just hustling. It's really stepping back and letting our minds do that. And that takes work for some people, right?
Yes.
I mean, some of us will do it all the time, but
no, it's intentional. Yeah. Well, I've been doing this so long. It's a part of, even when I was a teenager, I would go to a nature trail. They call it, not far from our home. And on Thursday afternoons, I'd go and I'd call it running around I didn't do that much running, but I claimed I was running around the trail, but mostly I was just listening and relaxing and really devoting. So that was something that, I was able to do as a young person, and it really became a habit. And so now it's like, I can't go without some time like that, and I'm grateful. But I think those of us who formed habits otherwise could learn from what you're saying today, that Jesus got away, we need to get away. And not only for our spiritual development and nourishment, it sounds like also for the creative part, which I'm learning today. Actually, imagination can bring some potentially awesome realities in the future. So you've brought a new perspective here, and I appreciate what you shared.
And I really would say that the spiritual, I don't see personally a disconnect. And I think that disembodiment, the incarnation shows us that Jesus was an actual person. He's the one we worship, but he's also a person. So we are not separated spiritually from how God made our bodies to create our minds as part of our bodies. So,
yeah, sure.
So you going on the trail is a discipline that's important. Inspiration, some people think it's just going to come, but it doesn't. You have to mine for it. And the whole chapter 5 of the book is about this.
Okay.
And so it's really a habit to mine for it. And isn't that what we're doing when we're trying to spiritually grow? Is we're trying to mine in a situation to get rid of the chaff in our thinking and to find the one thing that's really true.
I think so, yeah.
And what God's saying to me, and what am I saying? It's just me, and what is it not me? And anyway.
Well, I think that leads to my, we've touched on it back and forth, but I kind of want a head-on answer from you on this one, if you will. Because we do have a lot of pastors and worship leaders that listen and watch, but also family. I mean, what about a parent, that's trying to see spiritual formation in their children? How can this creative process play into spiritual formation even? Or it sounds like it clearly is very connected. You just referred to that. I just like a little bit more digging into that before we go.
Okay, I think it really, like, parenting is a perfect example.
Okay.
One example is, of course, I had toddlers at one point in time. They are the most amazing, powerful little people. They require a thing called limitations. And so one of the things that works in here is I have the 3 steps. I made the process into 3 steps. There's a dream, there's the sandbox, and there's the story. And the dream is where we discover the ideas. And the sandbox is where we develop the ideas, building it into something. And then we deliver it in the story. And so for families listening, you do this every day. If you're a mom at home or parent at home with little kids, which it's exhausting, you are having to be creative constantly because you're having to set limitations and test your ideas. Will this work? Will Johnny eat this? And so I think creativity, we don't value the human factor of it, humanity enough, really, is what I would say, is that God loves His creation. We're the pinnacle of His creation. And so everything that you do, no matter what the role is, it's great if you're called a pastor or you're the worship guy with a microphone or gal with a microphone. That's cool. But every one of us has a creative calling, I would say. And so learning this process is really you hopefully discovering that in what you do, you can be more of a person doing it, not a machine, not a drone, but a person who has agency, who's partnering with God through all these steps to see, it's raising your toddler through potty training, or if it's a teacher who's making, they make like thousands of decisions a day. If you're a school teacher, it's really tough. My wife's a teacher, so I know this. And it's not just about cutting the bears, because I used to help her cut bears for the little kids at the night before school. It's about discovering this child learns reading this way, this child doesn't. I have a new child in the room whose English is a second language. I have a child with learning disabilities. So out of 25 kids or more in the room, that teacher has to be creative. So I wrote this book for that person because I want that person to feel like what they're doing, whether it's seen or not, is creative. It's great that we have art galleries where people's creativity can be seen. Now, I think the artist shows us what all of us are called to do, and that's to make this world, to redeem this world in such a way that we glorify God, and as long as we're here on earth, and to that shine what heaven should be, so we can direct people to who God really is. Not, so my life's purpose, in essence, is to show who God is through me living my life's purpose. Not through somehow fitting rules or that. And so if I learn to create more, to be an image bearer of God, the Father, then that's a calling in itself. And that can play itself out in ways no one's ever going to see. Most of the time they won't. And as you know, most of the people don't see all the stuff you really do, Dwayne. They could, they'll read this book I have, but yeah, there's 6 years in it. There's conversations. There's the tears almost with the editors. There's all these things involved in it. And so I think that's the point here, is that it's a human process. Being creative is what humanity's about. I like to use a phrase, the old saying, I think, therefore I am. I think in God's economy, it's I create, therefore I am. How do we know we're alive? We're making things. Animals don't make things. One scientist said that cows don't choreograph dances. But our brains literally are wired to do this like no other being. And that comes from anyone who studies it, no matter what their belief system. But those of us who are believers, which I am, we see the power of understanding that. Just like you're saying, the body, the amazing thing. It does blow my mind.
Well, you challenged us today. Rich, thank you for the time. We appreciate it very much.
My pleasure, and thank you so much for.
We're going to put the website on the screen so people can visit your website, and we'll put /Mindblown so they can go straight to the book, find out more about that, and we'll be back next week with with my new friend Josh Miller. We just met at Cedarville University a few months ago while we were both speaking there. But he's at Saddleback, so we'll be back next week with him. And honestly, I won't be actually physically here. I'll be in Zambia at that time. But please do pray for us. Rich, I'd ask that you pray as well. We have a team of 24 going over from the U.S. as well as other countries. And so it's a big, convergent moment that we're believing will diversify into some great glory to God. We're excited about it.
Awesome.
Well, thanks again, buddy. And I hope we don't wait 15 years to reconnect. This is crazy. I was so excited when I saw that our producer Barry had got you lined up for this. It's been very, very, and here I go again, rich today. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Dwayne.
We'll be back next week with more Live Talk. Thanks again for joining us.
Thanks for listening to Live Talk with Dwayne Moore. Live Talk is presented by Next Level Worship International. To learn more about our global community and find great devotionals and other resources on lifestyle worship, visit nextlevelworship.com.